New this week from DC Comics, Batman, Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age, issue number 4, written by Andy Diggle, art by Leandro Fernandez. The Kryptonian Age is the latest entry into the world of Gotham by Gaslight, which is one of, if not the, seminal elseworlds story from DC Comics, written by Brian Augustine in 1989, with art by legendary Mike Mignola. Gotham by Gaslight famously took the mythos and characters of Batman and rooted them back in the beginning of the 20th century, allowing for a more antiquated, Gilded Age steampunk aesthetic. It is truly the kind of celebrated elseworlds story that all other elseworlds stories in the modern era desire to emulate. However, the Kryptonian Age has had a few factors going against its critical reception. The first and greatest of which is adding to a beloved series that has been left untouched for the last 33 years. And equally damning is the series being penned by a new writer, not Brian Augustine, who happened to have died in 2022. Which just smells a little bit too overtly like capitalistic greed. Finally, the series itself, once released, has been progressing at a deliberately slow pace, making it difficult for fans and reviewers like myself to comment on what the narrative goal of this series even is. Let us first take a step back from the emotional implications of this series release, because I think it's important for fans to consider that it makes all the sense in the world for DC Comics to inevitably return to one of the most popular and celebrated worlds that they've ever fostered, though the timing does still feel a little gross. And big corporations shouldn't profit off of artists' intellectual property for free. If you want more examples of that ridiculous practice, then you should look up Sony's new trailer for Venom: The Last Dance, and then Google Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman. Moreover, with the release of issue number 4, I think it's high time for the Kryptonian Age to be judged by its merits rather than inherently biased, nostalgic comparison. And I can definitely understand if you gave this series a chance with issue number 1 and then promptly jumped ship due to the narrow, conspicuous nature of that first offering, which really gave no indication of the sheer magnitude of scope that this series would inevitably develop. Because the brand name of Gotham by Gaslight ultimately does this far-reaching series a disservice. Because in actuality, it is set to encompass the entire world of DC Comics in this bold, stylized, fresh new context. Additionally, this is the kind of rewarding, intelligent writing that such a series deserves, as well as the kind of unique, genre-specific, alluring artwork that fans of the title have come to expect. For the uninitiated, the Kryptonian Age begins with our 1900s version of Catwoman, who is an affluent madam in this universe, attending an exhibition put on by the Wayne Foundation about the Kryptonian Age, featuring numerous priceless artifacts from an ancient lost era only recently discovered by archaeologists around the world. The most prized artifact on exhibit is a strange green ring called the Ring of Zhongli that, wouldn't you know it, Catwoman steals, and unwittingly delivers to a group of foreign mercenaries called the League of Shadows. However, Batman is hot on Catwoman's tail, having used Selina as bait with a fake ring in order to reveal the League's true purpose. As I said earlier, this is just the tip of the iceberg, though, as the series has gone on to develop multiple evolving plot lines with unexpected and familiar characters, such as Adam Strange's expedition to Antarctica, and pioneers Jonathan and Martha Kent encountering a meteorological event, and much, much more. If you're looking for the next big, epic, enriching, superhero-centric series with a unique twist, then I suggest you catch up on Batman, Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age. Though it is a mouthful to say. Let's talk more in depth about issue number 1, which means spoilers ahead. Issue number 4 begins with the horrific imagery of a train crash in the mountains of Colorado, picking back up from the cliffhanger ending of issue number 3, where we were introduced to the eccentric aerialist Alan Scott and the charming Mrs. Silverton, the possessor of the Ring of Zhongli, right before the train was set upon by the League of Shadows. Which I just have to interject and say that I love that that is Bruce's plan in this early 1900s universe. He's like, "Hello, charming old lady. Please take this ring for me, and you've always wanted to see the countryside, haven't you? Just take it and just drive around the train. Don't get off. Don't give the ring to anybody. Just take the ring and go. Cleverly, this scene seamlessly integrates the origin story of the original Green Lantern in the context of the early 1900s, with Alan Scott obtaining the Green Lantern ring from the dying Mrs. Silverton, who assures him that he is a good man regardless of his past con man ways. With the ring in hand, Scott attempts to stealthily flee the train wreckage, but is spotted by a few members of the League and forced to defend himself, resulting in the League members melting into skeletons in a hellish green flame erupting from the ring. Fernandez frames this moment so well on the page, creating yet another unabashed, iconic moment for this Elseworlds series. We then cut back to Gotham, where instead of the corrupt cops and generic goon smugglers at the docks scene that has become a defining aspect of Batman comics, we instead get corrupt cops and generic goons on a sailing smuggling ship just outside of Gotham's port, which honestly is much more fun. Here we see Batman acting in classic force of nature fashion, hanging the captain by the neck from the ship's sails as he takes everyone out one by one like a demon out of hell. The Batman then cuts the rope and interrogates the ship's captain, knowing that he helped the League of Shadows come to Gotham shores. I highlight this scene because it properly showcases just how select the number of scenes with Gotham and Batman have been in this series to date, with the investigation into the League really only just beginning. I can understand how people might find this pacing distracting or meandering, but I for one find it exciting knowing how much of this story is yet to unfold. Next, we head back to Antarctica, where Wonder Woman and Adam Strange venture out of the frigid wastelands, arriving at the merciful docks, about to head home. This chapter of the story has been, by far, the most interesting and expressive, delving into the deep, hollow earth where this universe's Themyscira exists. And I, for one, need an entire series devoted just to that. Everything we saw in issue number 3, in all of its Dante's Inferno-inspired glory. Additionally, these chapters with Wonder Woman and Adam Strange have offered the bulk of the relevant and core narrative information as to this series' direction, as Adam Strange explores the ruins of the lost Kryptonian civilization and learns of a prophecy from Diana about the return of the Kryptonians and the potential apocalyptic aftermath. It has a very Call of Cthulhu vibe to it. In the latter half of this already wonderfully dense and adventurous issue, we cut to a brand new perspective and ensemble cast in Metropolis as Lois Lane rants to Jimmy Olsen and her boss editor Perry White about business mogul Lex Luthor's history of corruption. Perry White fires back to Lois that she has no proof of Lex Luthor's misdeeds, and that if she wants to change the board's perspective of Luthor's offer to buy the Daily Planet, then she will have to do some thorough journalism. Lois, in typical fashion, is way ahead of Perry and produces a map of Lex Luthor's most recent railroad purchases and land purchases, all centered around a small podunk town called Smallville. It is so much fun seeing familiar DC settings and characters transformed by the time-appropriate style and aesthetic of Gotham by Gaslight in a seamless, intelligent way. For instance, we don't waste any time in this issue explaining why Lois Lane makes sense in this bygone world, as she just literally kicks in the door and lets her personality erase any doubt about her authority or position in this story. There is a palpable inherent sense of trust in the reader that their knowledge of DC Comics and characters will fill in any unexplained gaps in the story where a lesser story would feel the need to over-explain. Finally, the issue concludes with the introduction of Victor Stone, an intelligent young man who has been sent by his company to Lex Luthor's railroad operation in order to examine and report on his ingenuitive production practices. However, after meeting Luthor, Stone is informed that he has really been recruited by Luthor in order to be his assistant for his latest revolutionary experiment, which we just get a glimpse of in the final pages, which seems to involve an electrical man trapped inside of a generator box of some sorts, presumably Black Lightning? This series is a passionate, audacious, monumental production that I definitely think is worth exploring for anyone who is a fan of DC's iconic characters. Playing with unique, exciting new narrative threads utilizing the long canon of DC Comics history, while still presenting the familiar stylings of Gotham by Gaslight. Please support your local comic book stores and grab Batman, Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age, issue number 4, on shelves now. I said this is such a familiar scene for fans of DC Comics, Alan Scott and his accident and his possession of the Green Lantern ring, but now we give it a fun horror twist. I'm so excited to see how this aspect of the story plays out. I hope that we get a flashback issue. That would be amazing. Just smaller moments like this is just so much fun to see in the style of Gotham by Gaslight. The Daily Planet building, Lois's outfit, the whole aesthetic. It's wonderfully displayed. And I love getting to see these different interpretations of Batman villains. It reminded me of that coffee table photo book, the Gotham 1919 to 1939. If you guys don't know what that is, you should check it out. Let me know in the comments if you've been enjoying this series and what character you're most excited to see introduced next.